Sonia, we are live.
Okay. I'm seeing a black screen on Facebook.
That's because you're not saying anything.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Yes, I think we should be starting in about a minute and a half. So as we get set up. You know, it's been a journey. We are on our 8th show today. So this is very exciting. So we should be starting. I think we should go for it. All right. Here we go. Sat Shri Akal, everyone. It's 10 a.m. here in Cupertino, California. And I am Sonia Dhami, joining you from Cupertino. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to our 8th virtual tour of Sikh treasures around the world. And before we really begin this show, I'd like to take a moment to share this live presentation with all of my Facebook friends. And I also ask you to please click the share button that you see on your screens so that we can spread the love. So please, I'll take a moment to share that on mine. So, okay, here we are. In our last webinar, we traveled with the acclaimed conservator, Miss Namita Jaspal, who shared with us her experiences in the conservation of Sikh heritage. She showed us the conservation work being done on the Chola Sahib of Guru Hargobind, the 6th Guru, which is kept at the village of Kadani Kala. She also took us with her to see the works being done on the frescoes at Darbar Sahib in Amritsar. Coming up on the 24th of October, which is 2 Saturdays from now, we will have Dr. Nadra Khan from LUMS in Lahore, Pakistan, who will talk with us about the many Sikh ustads of architecture, art and crafts in colonial Punjab. So please mark your calendars for 24th of October at the same time. Dr. Khan will also be sharing with us works of the acclaimed architect Bhai Ram Singh. But today we will take a virtual tour of an important heritage site in the little known town of Guru Harsahai in Firozpur in Charda, Punjab. This presentation will be for about an hour, after which we will take any questions that you might have. Please feel free to write your questions in the chat windows or comments in the window at any time during the show, and we will keep an eye out for them and take them up after the presentation is over. So once again, if you have not done so already, please share this live session by clicking the share button on your screens. This webinar is brought to you by the Sikh Foundation. And I would now like to share with you a brief 3-minute video which will introduce, to those of you who are not familiar with the Sikh Foundation, some of the highlights of the past 50 years. Soon after its establishment, the Sikh Foundation immersed itself in literary pursuits, publishing books and journals. But the course of history, set in motion in the Punjab in the 80s, engulfed all academic and artistic ambitions for now. The weekly newspaper, the Sikh Times, was launched in 1984. Full-page advertisements in leading American newspapers were published to educate Americans about Sikhs. Pioneering the display of Sikh arts, the first Sikh art exhibit opened in 1992 in San Francisco at the Asian Art Museum. Another major initiative was the establishment of the Kundan Kaur Kapany Chair of Sikh and Punjabi Language Studies, the first of its kind at the University of California, Santa Barbara, commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Sikh Foundation. The first permanent Sikh art gallery was established at the Asian Art Museums in San Francisco in 2003. In all, 7 Sikh art exhibits supported by the foundation have been displayed at leading museums all over the world, including the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the Smithsonian in DC, Rubin Museum of Art in New York, and the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. 3 chairs of Sikh studies set up by the Sikh Foundation at University of California campuses at Santa Barbara, Riverside, and Santa Cruz, and a Sikh studies program at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley are amongst the 6 endowed chairs and numerous programs running all over the United States with the support from the community. These chairs and programs create an enduring legacy, educating generations of students. With increasing number of scholars of Sikh studies, the field has expanded from religion and history to also include economics, conservation, and art. Continuing in our mission to create high-quality resources for the academic and artistic study of Sikhism, our latest publication, Sikh Arts from the Kapany Collection, co-published with the Smithsonian Institute, documents this unrivaled collection of art. As we look to the future, we think about new ways to maintain our connection with our past heritage so that our future generations can also be inspired, engaged, and educated all over the world. So can you, am I back on the screen? I suppose so. So this virtual series is another step by the Sikh Foundation, which has worked for over 50 years for the preservation and promotion of Sikh heritage through its art, religion, and literature. Today, we will take a virtual tour to see and gain an understanding of the art and architecture of an important heritage building in a little-known town of Guru Harsahai near Firozpur in Punjab. The building, known by the name of Pothi Mala, because it is the house of the Pothi and the Mala, or the rosary, believed to be of Guru Nanak. These relics, along with the Seli Topi, Padam, and Saligram, have been passed down the generations in the Sodhi family. The frescoes and wall paintings adorning the walls of this almost 300-year-old heritage building are reflective of Punjab's rich cultural heritage shared by Sikhs, Hindus, and Muslims, communities that call Punjab home. Sharing this with us is Miss Diamond Sodhi, who is the 17th generation descendant of Guru Ram Das, the fourth Sikh Guru. An entrepreneur with creative genes, she also writes and blogs and has been sharing pictures and information about the art and architecture of the Pothi Mala on her social media channels. And that's how I connected with her through my online research. Today, she will be sharing with us some stunning frescoes and architecture of her family's Pothi Mala building. We are also fortunate to have with us Dr. Gurinder Singh Mann, who was the Kundan Kaur Kapany Chair of Sikh Studies at the University of California in Santa Barbara, right from its inception in 1999 till 2017. He continues his research as the director of the Global Institute of Sikh Studies based in New York. His research on the Sikh scriptural traditions is widely published in books and papers. And moreover, he has personally visited the Pothi Mala site, about which he writes in detail in his book, The Making of Sikh Scripture. And I have a copy of the book here, and I highly recommend everyone, whoever is interested in understanding the Sikh scriptural traditions, to please read this book. So welcome to the show, Dr. Maan. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you have to unmute yourself, please. Dr. Maan?
Are we okay?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Doctor.
Thank you, Sonia ji, for your kind words. Gratitude is all mine for this opportunity to introduce Diamond Sodhi's presentation. I have been recipient of her parents' affection and kindness during my visits to their home. And it's an honor to be part of this conversation. What I plan to say is something very simple. As you said, this is the site of the Pothi. So the first question would be, what can I tell you about this Pothi? The Pothi was compiled at Kartarpur, Pakistan, under the supervision of Baba Nanak, and the years are the 1520s. So we are talking of 5 centuries ago. After Baba Nanak's death, the Pothi moved to Khadur, Goindwal, and the present-day Amritsar. as parts of the shifts in Sikh Darbar. In the mid-1690s, the Pothi came in the custody of Diamond Sodhi's family line, and from that point on, it moved along with its custodians from Amritsar to a village named Hare near Lahore, and then to Muhammadipur near Kasur. And then we're in the middle of the 18th century, the Pothi moves to the present location of Guru Harsahai. It stayed there with the Diamond's family until 1971, when it was lost under some very unfortunate circumstances. So if I were to say one thing about the Pothi, that is that it presents the classic symbol of reverence assigned to the sacred writings within the Sikh Panth. The house of the Pothi constituted the physical center of the town of Guru Harsahai, and its custody defined the nature of reverence extended to the Sodhi family. Now, moving on to the art part of it, I'd like to make one general point and then two observations about the art at the Pothi Mala. First is that I'd like to submit that the Sikh Pothis represent the earliest form of Sikh art, and their artistic content includes the making of the paper, folding the folios into gatherings, illuminating the folios. We have the Punjabi words for all this. Gathering would be a senchi, illuminating the folios would be tahal karna, then the inscription is there, and the binding generally in the animal hide. So let me just explain to you, this is what we are talking about. The early pothis are all in leather binding, which is sort of very important in itself. What does that signify? We don't need to go into that, but the issue is that the leather binding was done only by certain who were going there. And then we move on. You can see the illumination there. You can see the calligraphy there, and even the paper making. All these are part of the Sikh artistic heritage. And the Pothi we are talking about today represent the first in this line. Now, moving on to two more observations on today's presentation. The site which we are going to visit in the next few minutes emerged in the late 18th century. And this dating, we all know that Sikh artistic heritage Ranjit Singh, but the treat you are going to have today comes from the largest repository of frescoes available in one place that are definitely from the pre-Ranjit Singh period. Now, secondly, the physical location of Guru Harsahai is worth registering. It was on the boundary of Punjab and Rajasthan, and even more importantly, the Sodhi family served as the buffer between the broad clans who were Sikhs and the Rajputs in the south. So that way, this put the Sodhi family in a commanding situation to draw masonry and artistic resources from both sides. So for students of arts, the fresco may provide an important specimen to examine how the Punjabi and Rajasthani elements of art blended in the pictures we will see in the next few minutes. So this is a very important site This is the largest site of its time, and there are all sorts of interesting details that one for your reference, manuscripts of Ranja, and we see the picture of Ranja in one of these frescoes. So this might be the earliest image we have of an image like that, of a person like that, of Ranja, you know, the folklore part. So there is religion in the picture. There are the fresco makers coming from Rajasthan, bringing their own heritage. There is folklore, and there is the Ras Leela. And we look forward to seeing all these pictures. And with that, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Maan. This was a great introduction. Sadly, because of time, it was brief. An introduction to the Pothi Mala, its legacy, and also a brief history of the Sodhi family. And I think this helps us to put in context the presentation and the art and architecture that Diamond is going to share with us. So thank you very much for that. So with this, let's just go right over to the city of Jalandhar in Punjab, where Diamond Sodhi is waiting for us. Sat Sri Akal, Diamond. Thank you so much for staying up so late.
Sat Sri Akal, and it's an absolute privilege to be presenting Pothi Mala on through the Sikh Foundation International, and a special thanks to you, Sonia, for connecting with me. It was also an honor to have Dr. Maan talk a little bit about Pothi Mala, and I think I have quite a bit written, so I'll get right into the presentation.
Yes, so if you're ready to get started, so it's all over to you now. Over to you, Diamond. Thank you so much.
All right. So I will be now sharing my screen with everyone. So the first part I would like to go with is about the
Diamond,
history of Guru Harsahai.
Diamond, 1 minute. If I may interrupt, please, I'm sorry. Can you go into like full screen mode? It will just show up so much better. Perfect.
Is that okay
Thank
now?
you. Perfect, yes.
So I'm just trying to give a context to everything related to Pothi Mala, including Guru Harsahai, just because so many of you may not even know where exactly it is on the map. So I'd like to just give you a brief history of Pothi Mala as it has been put on record. As Dr. Maan just explained that there was some dispute about when the family moved to the area of Guru Harsahai. There is one account that a Sodhi Kaur, a descendant of Prithi Chand, met Guru Gobind Singh at Villa Dhilwa in Lakhi Jungle, thus named as the area south of Firozpur, was thought to have 1 lakh tree. Now, this is very interesting. The Guru Harsahai estate was also known as the Lakhi Jungle estate. So this is where the reference to the Lakhi Jungle comes from. The new habitation was named after the son of Jivan Mal and given the name of Kot Harsahai. When Harsahai came to the Gaddi, by common usage, the name was changed to Guru Harsahai and has remained such since then. According to the Punjab District Gazetteer, 1983, this place was a waste tract between the territories occupied by the Barars and Dogars, who were constantly quarreling over its possession. Around 1745, Guru Jivan Mal came and pitched his tent upon this waste. He was a Sodhi, 7th in descent from the celebrated Guru Ramdas. He had been driven from his home at Muhammadpur near Chunia, now in Lahore, Pakistan. The Dogar chief Sultan gave him protection and encouragement to remain in the place, believing that his presence would in a measure stop the incursions of the Barars and put an end to the disputes between the two tribes. The Barars also favored him, knowing him to be a priest of their own religion. He was therefore permitted to establish a number of villages in the plain, and he fixed his boundaries by marking down the tracks of his horse's hooves as he made a long circuit one morning along the boundary of the land he fancied. He named the Ilaka Guru Harsahai after his eldest son, who eventually took his father's place as head of the family. Jivan Mal appears to have made friends later on with Ahmad Shah because he was allowed to hold his land free of revenue, and the grant was renewed by Ranjit Singh when the Muhammadan authority disappeared from this part of the Punjab. The Pothi Mala building is situated in a small town called Guru Harsahai, which is in the district Firozpur. And Guru Harsahai is approximately 270 kilometers away from Chandigarh, just for you to have a reference. Now I would like to move on to the next part of the presentation, that is the holy relics of Pothi Mala. So the first relic I'm going to talk about is the Seli Topi. The topi, or the cap, that originally belonged to Guru Nanak Dev Ji is made of very fine silk and due to age is torn in some places. A few generations ago, it was sewn inside an outer casing so as to protect the original topi. This topi is still in our possession and kept along with the other relics in the Pothi Mala building in Guru Harsahai. It is a custom that the Gaddi Nashin of the Pothi Mala wears this topi on New Sammat day every year when the relics of the Guru Nanak Dev Ji are displayed for darshan to the devotees of Pothi Mala during the annual Mela. According to Bhai Gurdinder Singh, the Seli Topi, amongst the other belonging of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, has been with the Sodhi family of Guru Harsahai. Bhai Gurdinder Singh recounts in his book, Itihas Shri Guru Granth Sahib, that Guru Jaswant Singh Sodhi was in possession of the old topi, but wore a new one with the old topi stitched inside the new one during the darshan of the relics. The next relic, so this other picture that you can see is of the topi, the original topi that is sewn inside the new topi. Since it's an old one, it's a worn-up one, to protect it, the Gaddi Nashin wears the new topi, but the old one is protected inside. Now, the next relics, the relics of Guru Nanak Dev Ji that descended in the family were the original topi as the headgear of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the Padam, priceless jewel with the image of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and his right foot thumbprint visible. The Saligram, which has 16 circles engraved around, had been in possession of Guru Nanak, along with the other holy relics. The original Pothi was stolen during the lifetime of Guru Jaswant Singh, the 14th descendant of Guru Ramdas Ji, while he was on his way from Delhi to Firozpur by train in 1970. The holy relics formed the basis of the continued influence of the family in religious matters. The living complex that came up over the period of time came to be known as Pothi Mala, and this continues till date. The Pothi Mala came to full glory during the time of Guru Gulab Singh, who was prominent in the reign of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Now I'm going to get into the image of Pothi Mala. So this is the front of the building. Very unfortunately, over a period of time, the front is almost all that we have left. The back portion of the building has almost gone away. Inside this building are some very precious murals I'll be walking you through in just a bit. So to begin with, I would like to talk about the building Pothi Mala itself. So it is believed that the foundation of Pothi Mala was laid by Guru Jivan Mal in direct descent from Guru Ramdas, who was the fourth Sikh Guru, in the year 1745. Since I've grown up in Pothi Mala, I would like to introduce the building from my perspective instead of giving an academic introduction to it. Sometime in the 80s, a car slowly mazed through a narrow potholed road to a family's heritage building, the Fort Pothi Mala. The drive was jerky and the car endured several bumps before it finally turned towards a beautifully carved, monumental old wooden gate in the far sight. As we moved closer, the weather-beaten gate appeared to hang loosely at the hinges, a timeless reminder of the past glory of an entrance that now guarded the fort like a defeated soldier. Pothi Mala, the 300-year-old building, the cornerstone of Guru Harsahai, asserted its majesty, flush with vibrant wall murals and delightful architectural artistry that anyhow appeared to crave urgent restoration. Besides being the residence of the descendants of Guru Ramdas, the building was a haven to the rather unexplored holy relics of Guru Nanak Dev. The historic monument owed its name to the Pothi, the sacred scripture handwritten by Guru Nanak Dev, and Mala, the rosary of Guru Nanak Dev. Though the original Pothi was stolen during the lifetime of Guru Jaswant Singh Sodhi, the family had sizable religious influence with followers, a separatist religious sect worshipping the holy relics housed in the building. Queer theories around the theft of this sacred Pothi had been purported over the years, with some notable literates of the Sikh religion hinting at rumors of the Pothi having been stolen away to the US or part of a private European collection. Nevertheless, along with the remaining holy relics and the crumbling heritage building, stood tall the followers' undaunted faith in the mystical powers of the Guru Gaddi at the Pothi Mala, where followers traveled long distances for the privilege of seeing the revered relics. Today, the white building with ornate arches painted in faded and patches of chipped off paint presents a sad profile of a neglected monument. The building echoes its glorified past, but inside becomes darker as you move forward. You would need to make your way up narrow spiraling stairs with carefully trodden footsteps. A dingy narrow stairs that might have been lit with oil lamps in the olden times conclude at a carved imperial door at the entrance for an illustrative feat. On the door being flung open, one is mesmerized by the full view of the room, lavished with the frescoes, the wall murals and ceilings with delicate glasswork, intricately fitted with hand-painted pieces of wood and delightfully adorned paintings. The exquisite expanse of the huge room, segregated through embellished pillars, bring to life a once resplendent building with marbled floors, tastefully colored paintings spanning across the walls, harmoniously blending the Sikh and Hindu deities and the tinted colored glasses filling the first floor with golden rays of sunlight. Down the years, the weather building has made it as a survivor. Along with the remaining holy relics and the crumbling heritage, still stands the followers' undaunted faith. With the untold historic journey from the genesis of the Suryavanshi Sodhis to the present lineage of Guru Ramdas Ji, Pothi Mala has remained the rightful seat of the Gaddi Nashin, that is the eldest male heir, with Guru Yuvraj Singh Sodhi, the 17th direct descendant of Guru Ramdas, as the present Guru Ansh, after my father, who was the 16th direct descendant. So from here on, I'd like to move on to the architecture and design of Pothi Mala. So what you can see on your screen is a charoka. It is very typical of the buildings built around in that era. We have a very nice sparrow sitting on the charoka, which is very usual sight. So the charoka, I believe, was basically built, and this is something that was shared by Tanmi of the Sikh Foundation, so that direct sunlight could not enter inside the building. The next slide talks about the doors and the windows. So you can see the doors and the windows are very heavily carved. The paint is golden in color, but it's just a color. It's been painted in different colors from time to time. If you take off the paint, you can see carvings in natural wood color. So as noted by Amar Chandel of the Tribune in the year 1999, the Pothi Mala building got its embellishments during the time of Guru Gulab Singh. The entrance lobby and the main rooms on the first floor housing the relics and also the Guru Granth Sahib had exquisitely decorated roofs with colored glass pieces and small carved colored bits of wood. The walls of the main room with the relics had the frescoes of Hindu mythology and contemporary Sikh themes on separate panels. The facade of the building is impressive as the charokas of the year seem to look at you with expecting, welcoming eyes, writes Swati Mittal, who has written quite a bit about Pothi Mala. Now I would like to go on to the next slide. Now this part of the slide on the left-hand side is picture of the sanctorium, or what we call strong room inside the building. The relics were originally housed inside this room. The murals inside this room appear to be fresher, newer, simply because nobody was permitted to enter this room. This room largely remains locked, and the murals on the other walls comparatively are weathering away because people have been visiting the first floor. But yes, there is a lot of newness inside this room. So there is a lot of solid woodwork done inside, extremely solid, yet intricately carved wooden doors have high quality carvings, uniformity across multiple designs, and perfect symmetries. The antique carved teak wooden doors are the original pieces and are a grand statement architectural design. Decorative nails were used to adorn the doors that were heavily carved with flora or images, scenes with the square blocks, filling up the doors and the windows design. Now this is, these are a couple of pictures from the ceilings. There were a lot of ceilings similar to these ones. Unfortunately, we've lost almost all the ceilings. Just the two of them remain. It is absolutely stunning to take a close look at the ceiling because each bit of square that you can see is hand painted. It either has a portrait or it has a floral design, and it has been pieced together to form one ceiling. So the roofs are embellished with colored glass pieces and small carved colored bits of wood. Each piece of wood assembled to form a larger design was a hand-painted miniature in bright and dark colors. The painstaking details define the class of the hand paintings and mirror work put in to bring to life the splendor of the artist's imaginations. An assemblage of intricately hand-painted miniature paintings laced with long wooden beads and mirror work. So this, you can see, the picture on the right is not in a very good shape, whereas the picture on the left, the ceiling on the left, is still pretty intact. And the one on the right is something that does definitely call for an urgent restoration. The screen that I'm sharing with you now is the dome inside the strong room. And if you go back and look at the building, Pothi Mala, you can see a gummud on top. So this dome is the roof of the strong room, and the gummud, which is supposed to be also the highest point in Guru Harsahai, is right above this dome. So the roofs of the building are done up very, very beautifully. Only the roof inside the strong room has been hand painted, whereas all the other roofs inside the building are painted, are wooden and mirror work roofs. So now I'd like to come down to the frescoes of Pothi Mala, something we've been looking at watching. Sonia has taken the pains to divide it into 5 sections. So we're first going to talk about the paintings or the frescoes of the gurus in Pothi Mala building. Then we look into the scenes from the daily life. Then we look into the flora and fauna, followed by mythology, and then the Punjab folklore. This particular slide shows the gurus of Punjab, like the Sikh Parshad Liya, Bhai Mardana, Sri Lakshmi Chand, Bhai Bala, and so on. As you can see, the mural developed a huge crack. It has been cemented to hold it together, but still you can have a clear visual of what the mural talks about. The next mural I would like to go to is of Sri Guru Ram Das, that's on the left, and another guru, that is Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, that is on the right-hand side. So this is a panel, this is a typical panel of murals inside the building. So this is basically a corner. The purpose of having this presentation, this slide on the presentation, is to give you a sense into how the murals are stacked one over the other. So the entrance lobby and the main rooms on the first floor housing the relics have decorated roofs done by Kashmiri artisans in the Khatabandi style, a style in which no nails are used. With a heart full of expectations, one enters the newly whitewashed structure that is more than 250 years old. Adorned on the walls in colors that reflect the years gone by are frescoes depicting themes ranging from Guru Nanak Dev Ji with village folk and Bhai Mardana, something we just saw in the previous slide, to scenes from the famous folklores of Punjab, something we will be getting to in the later slides. Claims are made that these miniature paintings were made by the Pahari school of art painters on their way down to the plains in the 18th and the 19th centuries. This was informed by Dr. Subhash Parihar, who was a retired professor from the Central University of Punjab. Such instances of murals are also found in monuments and architecture in parts of Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, and Himachal Pradesh, he further advises. So before I go to this, I'd like to also specify here that as for the walls filled with the frescoes, the common thread of tradition evident from the fact that the walls of the main room of relics are full of frescoes of Hindu mythology and Sikh themes that I just talked about. The frescoes are tempera or dry frescoes. It is obvious that the illustrations were done by professional artists at that time. One of the panels has a likeliness of the Sandhavalia Sardars, who were great patrons of art. They were not related to the family, but it seems that the artist must have worked for them at some time and paid a tribute to them in this fashion. An interesting aspect of murals is that they seem to be enlargements of miniatures, rather than their having been conceived independently. So the form is that of miniatures, the size of murals. Nakshi work is also to be found in abundance, since this was the abode of important relics of the founder of Sikhism, and the family had means to make sure that the place where these were to be kept was the most lavishly decorated one. The next slide that you see on your screens is related to Baba Buddha Ji with Mata Ganga Ji. So I'll just give you a little bit of backdrop on this particular mural. When Mata Ganga sought the blessings of her husband, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, to bear a child, Guru Sahib advised her to invoke the blessings of Baba Buddha, the most revered Sikh. Going to Baba Buddha to pay her respect, she carried with her missi roti, an onion, and lassi. While breaking the onion, the Baba pronounced, "Soon you will be the mother of a child whose gallantry and valor will be unmatched." And in this particular mural, you can probably see Mata Ganga carrying missi roti, onion, and lassi with her to Baba Buddha. Now we come down to scenes from the daily life, and personally speaking, these frescoes are my favorite, simply for the beautiful ornaments, the beautiful clothes the women are wearing, the lovely paintings in colors such as indigo, bottle green, rust orange, and a beautiful yellow color. So this is an enlargement of the previous fresco you just looked at. You can look at the jewelry, the clothes, the bangles. There are bright, vibrant colors that are used to depict women who are dressed in various clothes. Only one of such picture depicts a woman in the traditional Punjabi salwar kameez. Unfortunately, I do not have that image with me, because it was way down towards the bottom of the wall, and it was almost scaling off because of probably people touching the mural way too often. The jewelry is embossed, as you can see, where the bangles and necklaces can be felt with a slight touch of the hand. Fine detailing creates a vivid imagery of the transparent dupattas worn by the woman. So one very interesting feature about these murals is, though they look a little faded, you just look at them. If you happen to wipe them with a wet cloth, they shine brightly like a newly painted mural. So probably if restored properly, the murals are likely to look as good as new, as good as when they were painted. So the next mural that you can see on the screen, it is probably one of the most talked of mural. I've seen a lot of researchers and authors refer to this mural. The artist put on display the splendid craftsmanship here through the flair of the dress and the opulent jewelry that perhaps signified the powerful status symbol. The intoxicating allure of an exquisite arrangement of precious stones worn by the woman cannot go overlooked by even a casually glancing eye. So we have the full form mural here, along with a screenshot of a closer look. And you could look at the jewelry, which is embossed. Like I said earlier, run your hand through it and you can tell where the jewelry is, because that's embossed, the face is plain. Even somebody who's blind can get some sort of an idea about this painting. This is a painting of a woman with an earthen pot in the left, and on the right is a woman selling earthen pots. So there is a bit of similarity in the kind of colors used. There is a very similar blue used in uniformity. The bottle greens are pretty same. So what I've probably noticed about the painting is that there are some very basic colors the painters used in the paintings, and through these colors they came up with very nice blends of paintings. This is a beautiful mural of a woman. Some people have also thought of her as a dancer. Others have thought of her as a woman with just a flower. There is, I'm not able to make much out of this, but it definitely represents a specific culture because of the necklace she's wearing, because of the bangles she's wearing, and the dupatta has a specific pattern, which could also relate to probably Rajasthan or Himachal. I'm not too sure about that. These are again two very beautiful murals of a woman playing a tanpura. And we've had women playing other musical instruments such as the flute. We have a mural, a woman with child, and she has what we called a pakhi. It's a fan on a stick. So when you run with the stick in your hand, the fan rotates. So it's some sort of a toy for a child. And on the right is again the mural of a child. Now, this mural looks to be a large mural, but it is indeed one of the two murals on the top sides of a panel. So it's a small foot by foot mural, and similar to the one here, that you would have another mural with a different picture. So typically on all the walls, basically there would be a portrait or a landscape scene, and it is bordered with a floral pattern. And on the top ends of the left and right, as well as the right ends, would be some sort of portraits like the one on the right side. Now this picture is this is basically a combat scene with the men in long hair, and the man with some sort of tool in his hand or weapon in his hand seems to have empowered the man whom he is holding by his beard, as you can see in the mural. On the other hand, on the right side is a young Nihang boy. Probably you can get a fair idea about the condition of the mural from this picture. It is so bad that the mural is almost, it's kind of, you cannot make out what exactly it is. The dress is not really visible, so you just have to put to your imagination what the dress is all about. These two murals are very interesting, and I am not quite able to understand whom these murals represent. So an interesting aspect of the murals in Pothi Mala are, each time a mural is painted for somebody famous, be it Guru Nanak Dev Ji or be it Lord Krishna, there is usually a caption added that tells about the person who is depicted in the mural. Now, these two murals are life-size murals. They would be more than 6 feet tall, both of these. And these murals appear inside the strong room in the Pothi Mala building. Again, when I was sharing these murals with Sonia, she probably thought that these might have been painted at a later time, but I told her that these murals were painted all at the same time, and probably the reason why these look fresh and new is because they're inside a room that is protected, that is closed, that is not open to public. So which is why we have these murals looking so new and gorgeous. There is an excellent display of the floral paintings, if you can see on the border of the portrait and on the bottom of the mural as well. Obviously, the men portrayed in these murals appear to be some kings or rajas because of the handkerchief they're holding, because of the kalgi on their turban, because of the sword. But since there is no caption available for these murals, it's really hard to tell whom these murals represent. So now we move on to the next section, which is the theme Flora and Fauna. So if you look at the Pothi Mala murals, you will see some beautiful paintings of flowers, trees, and leaves, such as the one shared on your screen. This is another panel. I absolutely love the color combinations used. Indigo is a very common color, which is used in most of the paintings, as you can see. And the painting you can see here, this is basically, these paintings are basically covering spaces which are either single panels or on the sides of a certain portrait. So the floral paintings are not the central theme of any mural. They are basically the borders or side panels of the murals. So it has been kind of ensured that every nook and corner, every bit of the wall inside the building is covered with one pattern or another, be it a floral representation, be it some birds, be it some borders or whatever. This is a very good example of the pillars you will see in Pothi Mala building, and there are so many of those. Now, if I look at this, if you look at this design, you've got different patterns. Probably in about a square foot of area, you will see different designs, you'll see different colors and different patterns to form a beautiful looking piece of art. This is an enlargement of a floral panel that has some flowers and two birds on either sides. This is again one of my favorites, especially the one on the left. This is basically a pillar. The entire pillar is painted in the same symmetrical design. And the one on the right is actually a floral panel on either sides of a mural or of a portrait. And the interesting thing here is that if you have two floral patterns on either side of a portrait, both the floral patterns would be similar in some way, yet dissimilar. For example, there would be some sort of change in the bottom design or color of the flower, but there would be some sort of geometrical similarity as well. Now I would like to come down to the most interesting part of the murals, that is the mythology. So when the Pothi Mala murals were painted, it was done in the times when devotion was considered to be a fairly pious affair. These painters clearly wanted to have some fun with their gods. Ananda, a core aspect of Indian spirituality, signifies an ease of being, where celebration is as natural as devotion, where chants come alive like the bubbles of the divine. The play with Western imagery on walls of Sikh heritage is itself an example of an open tradition. On another wall sits Kabir, the mystic poet, in a Brit forest ranger hat, weaving away. So we do have a mural where we see an angel, a representative of a European culture, and the Kabir. But since while I was shooting for the pictures, probably these murals have been lost with time. So I could not really get you a picture, but yes, we did have a mix of culture represented in the murals. So we're looking at, this is a very fine example of what a typical wall looks like. Now this is the wall behind the sanctorium, the strong room as I call. This is a shot of the entire wall, the length and breadth of the wall. So as you can see, the mural of the child that I was talking about, you can see two murals, one on the left, one on the right. And on the top, you can see a floral depiction. Around the arch, you can see a landscape. We'll get into what the landscape is about. It's actually a story about Hindu mythology. Below this, you have another mural that is a wedding scene. And right below, you have a geometrical design. On the borders, you can see bottle green and green florals that are actually closing in on the wall. So this is a full wall panel, and there are many such panels in Pothi Mala, most of which are still there. Unfortunately, the areas where people can get their hands, can touch, can feel, are in a pretty bad shape. The further up you go, and the higher the murals, the more protected and the more well preserved they would be. So coming down to this particular mural, this is a mural where Rukhmani, Krishna. Now Krishna is not very visible. He's right behind the chariot, but he's there somewhere. And Balbhadraji, if you go clockwise. So I'd like to give you a little bit of context to this particular mural. Rukhmani, the wife of Krishna, was in love with him and wrote a letter to him that his brother is forcibly trying to get her married to Shishupal. She beseeched him to rescue her, else she would commit suicide. Moments before the scheduled wedding, Lord Krishna called her to the mandir and rescued her with the help of Balbhadraji, who was his step-brother, also known as Balramji. So this scene very nicely depicts the entire sequence of Balbhadraji rescuing Rukhmani, and you can see the soldiers he's trying to rescue her from. This is the wedding scene of Lord Krishna with Rukhmani. Now here in Pothi Mala, which is a Sikh site, sit emblems of loved Hindu mythology. Murals such as these show syncretic moments like a divine marriage done by a Muslim cleric and a Hindu priest. So this is very interesting. Now this is one left side of the painting, the landscape I just shared with you. This mural shows the women watching over the wedding scene of Lord Krishna. This is a very beautiful and a very natural painting of women looking at each other. There's a woman in an indigo colored dupatta who has her shoulder rested, who has her arm resting on the shoulder of another woman. The women are looking into different directions. Some seem to be talking, some seem to be looking over at the wedding, some seem to be gossiping. So that's it. And the next mural again has a daily life scene with two women sitting at the window. There is a man with some sort of plate or chatar over his head. And there's another man who's probably trying to walk down the stairs. So an interesting aspect of these murals I'd like to talk about here is that, especially in this mural, the paintings done at that time, some of the paintings were in 3D form, and 3D form of art was very new to the forms of arts at that time. And many of the murals reflect the 3D form of art here. This is again another wall. Now you can see there are murals one above the other. There's a floral mural right at the left bottom, and there is Lord Krishna seen on the top. There's another floral bottle. So you can see that the painters tried to break the monotony of the wall by painting a landscape or a mural and then topping it up with a floral, then having another mural, and then having another floral. So this particular mural has a recessed wall, and there is a scene of Krishna and Radha. They are looking at a stormy weather in this particular mural. These two pictures again relate to the Hindu mythology. Lord Krishna, basically, the one on the left is about Ras Mandla, and the one on the right has an inscription that says Krishan Jeete Radhe ke Ping Chut Rahe Ji. Now, a very interesting thing I noticed here was that the inscriptions are written in Punjabi or Gurmukhi, but in many inscriptions, it seems that the painter has probably narrated the caption in Hindi, which goes on to further validate the fact that the painters did not belong to Punjab, and they probably belong to a Hindi-speaking region, and they probably narrated the caption, and the person who must have been a local wrote in the Gurmukhi language. So these paintings talk about the eternal dance of loved God, who typifies not just the seasonal flavor of union, but a dance of life merging into the divine itself. And like I just said, the inscriptions are in Punjabi, but what's written is in Hindi. Now I'd like to go on to the next mural. It's again a beautiful mural. I simply love it for the beautiful white background, the intricate jewelry, and the picture of Radha here. Now in this particular picture, you can see Radha with Udochi. Now, who was Udochi? Udochi was the childhood friend of Lord Krishna. He was formerly known as Uddhav, but she lovingly addressed him as Uddhav. When Krishna moved to Mathura from Gokul, Udochi accompanied him. Udochi was Krishna's messenger to inquire about Radhaji. This particular painting depicts Radha writing a letter for Lord Krishna and Udochi watching her write the message he would be delivering to Lord Krishna. Now we come down to a very interesting section that is called the Kissas from the Punjab folklore. Until about a few weeks back, that I visited Pothi Mala to capture the pictures for this presentation, I was absolutely unaware of the fact that the paintings talked about the folklore of Punjab. And I would like to dedicate this entire section to Srishti Pandey Sharma, who holds an MPhil degree in comparative religions from Jamia Millia Islamia. She is the one who has detailed the kissas represented in the Pothi Mala paintings in her research work. So Srishti basically writes in her research that the site of Pothi Mala is a representation of the shared cultures. I'd like to go back to the previous slide, sorry. So Srishti writes that the site of Pothi Mala is a representation of the shared cultures and beliefs, and people ensure a positive religious interaction. The frescoes at Pothi Mala point towards an interdependence of religious scriptures and paintings. There are a few paintings which are the result of the artist's imagination, and some depict the cultures of the native lands of these Pahari artists. The paintings are also in line with the Mughal miniatures, but one point of difference is that unlike the Mughal miniatures, these are unsigned by the painter. The frescoes are wide-ranging in their subjects, from the Hindu epics of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata to the Sikh warrior saint Guru Gobind Singh Ji, to the Sufi imagery, which has been painted in the backdrop of the Kissa tradition of Heer Ranjha and Soni Mahiwal, amongst others. Now I'd like to come down to the first Kissa, that is the Soni Mahiwal. Before that, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the Sufism depicted in these paintings. The sacred space at Pothi Mala depicts the Sufi thought and belief through the Kissa tradition, which has been prevalent in the Punjab. The Kissa tradition provides the backdrop to the frescoes at Pothi Mala, which are a visual representation of Sufi thought, widespread and prevalent in the lands of the Punjab. The Kissas are part factual and part fictional, and these originated in the Sindh, which is now a part of Pakistan. So the first Kissa we're going to talk about is that of Soni Mahiwal. This is the painting depicting the love story of Soni Mahiwal. The story is set on the banks of Punjab's river Chenab, is about Sohni. In Punjab, it means the word pretty. Soni was the daughter of a famous potter, Tulla. One day, a rich man from Uzbekistan by the name of Izad Beg came to Tulla's house to buy some pottery. Bewitched by Soni's beauty, he stayed on in the city. However, he was impoverished. He was into poverty by twist of fate and was hired by Soni as a buffalo herder when he was rechristened as Mahiwal. They fell in love, but the couple was doomed because Soni's marriage had already been fixed with a potter who lived nearby. So that was the tragedy of the Soni and Mahiwal. And we come down to the next story, that is of Heer and Ranjha. Heer Ranjha is the most prominent among the four tragic Kissa, love stories and romances from the Sindh. This painting is found on the right-hand side when a devotee enters the house of these holy relics and these frescoes. The presence of the cows, which are of course not visible in this particular painting because the painting has been destroyed. We could only pull out a part of the painting to show the Heer. So the presence of the cow and the man playing a flute indicate this as the story of Heer Ranjha, a text composed in the 15th century by Waris Shah. The next folklore is that of Sassi and Punno. This painting is a representation of the love story of Sassi and Punno. Sassi is seen as desperately running to catch up with Punno, who is taken away on a camel in a drunken state. Sassi Punno is one of the four popular tragic romances of the Sindh. The separation of the love-lorn Sassi from Punno is a literal reality today. In this fresco, we see the distraught Sassi clutching grass in her hand, consoled by an elderly lady. Tragically, the part of the fresco which shows Punno being taken away on a camel by his brothers has actually fallen away, separating the lovers forever. And this was actually observed, pointed out by Sonia. Thank you so much for that. So just to give a little backdrop on Sassi Punno. Sasi was the daughter of the king of Bhambor. Punnu or Pannu Khan was the son of King Ali Hooth. Hooth is a famous Baluchi tribe in Makran, Balochistan. Sasi once visited the place to offer her tributes and admire the rich art. She instantly fell in love with a painting, which was a masterpiece of heavenly creation. She soon discovered this was the portrait of Prince Punnu, son of King Ali Hooth, the ruler of Kicham. She became desperate to meet Punnu. He came to see Sasi in the garb of a perfume trader. The moment Sasi saw him, she couldn't help saying, "Praise to be God." So the frescoes in these folklore reflect the plurality in the culture of Punjab, the portrayal of Ranja, the tragic protagonist of the Sufi poet Waris Shah's story, and the associations indicated between him and Krishna, a Hindu god, in a Gurudwara, where the Sikh turban also finds a representation, is an indication of this plurality. Now, this is something interesting, and I'd like to just detail on this. Incidentally, revolutionaries like Udham Singh had taken an oath on these texts. During his trial in Britain in 1940, the revolutionary nationalist Udham Singh, who assassinated Michael Dyer, the Lieutenant General, Governor of Punjab, presiding over the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, had asked to take oath not on any religious text, but on Heer Waris, the Heer Ranja poem, penned by Waris Shah in the 18th century. So monuments with momentous significance, such as the paintings as these in the history of Sikhs, Pothi Mala has kept these paintings alive in the form of frescoes, and the worshippers or the devotees have kept these paintings alive by visiting them, by visiting the building regularly on every Samvat every year. Finally, I'd like to come down to the urgent need for restoration. And before I just get into it, I'd like to take you through quick 3 or 4 slides just to give you an insight into the condition of the murals as on today. As you can see on this particular panel, there obviously must have been a huge crack. It has been cemented just to keep the wall from holding. This is the famous photo that Sonia talked about, where the camel part has been taken away. You can see the mural is completely spoiled here. Only Sasi is visible with an old woman. The rest of the mural was in too bad a shape for me to take a photograph of. This is a mural where you can see on the right-hand side, the wall is falling off, and it's been plastered just to keep the wall from falling any further. The mural, the wall with the murals is absolutely intact and beautiful, but the right-hand side wall is not in a good shape. The murals have been lost, and we could see a further decay in the wall in times to come. This particular mural is basically included in the slide to talk about the defacing of frescoes. Now, it is seen that a lot of murals have Urdu script written on those. It obviously does not seem to me that these are, idle scribblings. It appears that somebody has tried to put a context to the florals or tried to put some sort of a history. Many of these scripts have some sort of dates. Since these are in Urdu, I could not really make much out of what these talk about, but yes, up till about 6 feet, as far as the hand can reach, the murals have these scribblings, whereas the murals on the top part are absolutely clean and untouched. This is a very fine example of the damaged murals because of the moisture seeping in. The top parts of the walls are completely faded. The murals are coming off and scaling off. They're almost faded. You can also see some very beautiful floral and geometrical paintings inside the arches of the 2 windows here. Now, these are 2 murals. Again, these are life-size murals, and Sonia pulled them from the internet, and I shared with her that during my recent photography, I was not able to find these murals. They are gone. They are no longer a part of the existing murals anymore. We probably lost them with time. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about the urgent need for restoration at the end of this presentation. A visit to Pothi Mala at Guru Harsahai leaves one with a strange feeling of awe mixed with disgust. Awe at the 500-odd breathtaking wall paintings which still exist there, and disgust at the way these and many more have been allowed to decay. This was lamented by the editor Amar Chandel in his article in the Tribune in the year 1992, and we are almost 30 years down the line. What should have been a well-preserved specimen of Punjab's composite culture is crumbling so fast that it can collapse anytime. The ground floor is already devoid of murals. The roofs of many rooms on the first floor have caved in, leaving the wall paintings there to the mercy of the elements. Big cracks have developed on the walls of the building, and one climbs onto the roof with a pounding heart lest it comes down. The majestic building, which was once spread over 90 canals, has shrunk to barely 8, thanks to all the encroachings. The remnants of the murals themselves tell of the grandeur that this building must have once possessed. Some rooms on the ground floor were whitewashed, destroying many of the murals, and I've seen that myself. Even the bricks of the falling rooms were stolen when our family shifted to Firozpur. My father, Guru Harsahai Singh Sodhi, who's no more, who passed away in the year 2012, had returned to the original seat of his family in 1980 and was made wiser about the worth of the paintings by a visiting American writer. Since he was not sure which government agency could help him in preserving the murals, he sent a letter to the then chairman of the Punjab Lalit Kala Academy, M.S. Randhawa, who in turn wrote to the director of the National Museum. So impressed was Randhawa, a great connoisseur of art, that he remarked in his letter, "These paintings are worth acquiring in the same manner as those in the Rang Mahal at Chamba." In fact, the paintings bear a remarkable resemblance with those of Chamba, incorporating the composite art of the Sikhs, Hindus, and the Muslims. The National Museum responded with alacrity and rushed a chemical expert to Guru Harsahai. His report to his director formed the basis of the latter's note to the Archaeological Survey of India, which said, "The building is in a tumble-down condition, but the murals are in good condition and are of considerable interest technologically and stylistically. Although it is possible to strip the paintings and bring them to the museum, it would not be possible to display even a fraction of these because of shortage of space. The building site should thus be preserved. It was felt that the building would finally get the recognition that it deserved. A superintending archaeologist of the ASI even wrote, "Senior officials are also taking keen interest in the cultural heritage that your house contained." This was written to my father. Now, almost 30 years have gone by without any tangible results. Perhaps one of the sticking points was the price at which the building should be acquired, although my father seemed to have denied this in his communications. One or the other wall comes down during every rainy season. Monsoon is one season of the year we dread because we lose some part of the building every monsoon. Tastefully decorated fall ceilings are rotting, following the seepage into the chatir and the khadi type of roofs. Dignitaries like the then Punjab governor Aminuddin Khan and the then Director General of Police J.F. Ribeiro visited the building and were highly impressed. The governor even wrote a letter to the Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India saying, "The precious murals may become worthless if prompt action is not taken to save them. It should be acquired and preserved as a national monument." Leave alone being treated as a national monument, Pothi Mala is not even being highlighted as a local monument. The would-be national monument is fast deteriorating. While the building puts up a brave front, the walls inside that are plush with murals wear cemented fixes to hold it from cracking. I have seen my dad tirelessly typing on his electronic typewriter the history of the legacy inherited by the family and putting up a website in the modern times to at least digitally restore what remained of what was. His relentless pursuit to have the Indian government's attention to the fast crumbling building got him a few emails, letters of appreciation, and a couple of articles in the newspaper, but no interest or solid intent for a restoration. On 17th November 2009, the Director General, Archaeological Survey of India wrote, and this is very interesting, "I inform you that the matter got examined through the superintending archaeologist, Chandigarh Circle, who has informed that the building has outstanding features and rich with paintings. It also has considerable religious significance. Besides, the place has links with celebrated cultural history of the nation and important events associated with the sacred religious objects of high veneration, which were material to the remains affirm Adi Granth of Sikhism, Lord Nanak. Further, the family is in the occupation of the sacred heritage and the present building is perpetuating from the 4th Sikh Guru Ramdas. That puts great historical significance. In view of the above, it is informed that the building, namely Pothi Mala, deserves financial aid for its conservation and preservation against any structural decay and maintenance of mural paintings and woodwork from eligible funds of the government. On 8 December 2011, a letter was sent by the superintending archaeologist, ASI Chandigarh, that a fund of rupees 3.4 crore had been sanctioned for the restoration of the building. However, 9 years down the line, no efforts have been made to translate this into action. The government's decision to preserve the monument still remains only on papers. Quite a bit has been written about the family, mostly emphasizing the spectacular murals and the crumbling heritage by art critiques and journalists who held interest in the neglected monument that ought to have been declared a heritage property. But sadly, the voices have been a shout in the void, with no attention drawn for the building that is fast decaying into a rubble. The half-measured efforts remain inconclusive, while the building fights its survival with each passing year. So with this, I'd like to end my presentation on the Pothi Mala building. I thank you all for watching this. I thank the Sikh Foundation International for giving us a platform to put before you Pothi Mala, its relics, its murals, its architecture, and its sad state, its sad condition that is craving for conservation and preservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Diamond. That was fascinating. And we just lost complete track of time. It was so engrossing. And really, thank you very much. I'm just spellbound seeing the beauty, the vibrancy, the diversity in themes. And as you mentioned, just the sheer number of frescoes, which I think you said about 500. So it's unique in itself and of course, spectacular. And I personally have been so inspired to look at the different representations of the legend of Soni Mahiwal when I saw the stunning fresco that you shared with me. And I find, and I posted it on Facebook, and I find friends from all over giving different information. This is a story that has a Persian ancestry as well. In Persian culture, there is a story of Soni Mahiwal. My cousin mentioned to me that he remembers seeing a Soviet film made many years ago, which is on Soni Mahiwal, and it was a Central Asian tradition. Another friend from Pakistan sent me a picture of Soni Mahiwal representation in Sindh, and then we have the representations in Guru Harsahai. So you see that these are artists from different regions who are as diverse as Rajasthan, Lucknow, Sindh, and Punjab, who have painted their visions. And there is one painting I came to know, which is in the collection of the Museum of Art and Photography, one of India's newest museums in Bengaluru, which shows Mahiwal depicted as Lord Krishna as well. So the point I'm trying to make here is that because there is such a fresco in the Pothi Mala, I was inspired to look at it more deeply and discovered that art can indeed bring together communities. And it is for this reason that I believe that it is the collective responsibility of all Punjabis, at least, to ensure that the Pothi Mala is preserved and saved from further deterioration. And these heritage sites, where religious traditions are still alive and they are practiced with deep reverence and sanctity by the devotees, are nevertheless far valuable beyond just their religious significance. These are valuable sites for scholars, historians, researchers, because they are the ones who unravel and decode the past for us. And it holds great potential for artists who can gain a deeper understanding of our roots and artistic traditions through studying these frescoes. And I know many a contemporary artist has been deeply impacted by heritage sites like the Ajanta caves. And I think in my mind, the Pothi Mala holds a similar significance. So thank you very much, Diamond, for this phenomenal presentation. We unfortunately now do not have any time left over for any questions, but I thank you for sending us your comments and questions. and we will pass those on to Diamond, and hopefully she will be able to answer those to you. So with this, we do have to conclude today's presentation. Thank you, Dr. Maan, for taking the time to be with us today. We deeply appreciate your research and scholarship. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia ji. Thank you, Diamond. Lovely, powerful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diamond, for sharing with us this priceless heritage, which has passed down the generations in your family. We hope that today's show will have helped create greater awareness, and perhaps it can open some pathways to ensure that the Pothi Mala building and its frescoes are preserved for generations to come. So thank you very much. And finally, thank you to all of our audience for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed the tour as much as we have enjoyed presenting it to you. The recording of this session is available on Facebook, and it will soon also be available on our Sikh Foundation YouTube channel. So please do share it further with your friends and family. And I also thank Ms. Tanmeet Gujral, the Program Director of the Sikh Foundation, and Ms. Cosma, our web miss, for producing this episode. We hope to see all of you again on Saturday, 24th of October, when we will have Dr. Nadra Khan share with us the pictures and information on the unsung Sikh Ustads of architecture, art and crafts in colonial Punjab, including celebrated by Ram Singh. So please mark your calendars. Until then, stay safe and stay inspired in Chardhi Kala. Thank you.